Hi, everybody. I'm Pedro. I have spent the night watching the Selena series. I took a brief nap and I am recording this video with a quick take from a fan um, looking like this. So I didn't get out my recording equipment. I'm actually recording this on Zoom. So I hope you'll excuse the quality of the video. It isn't the high def that I would like to put out. But I really wanted to be able to speak to some of the reviews of the Selena series, particularly in relation to a lot of the critique that has been coming out on Twitter and some of the other social media channels. Let me start off by saying this. If your relation to Selena, your knowledge base, your big knowledge base about Selena comes from the Selena movie, you're not going to like the series, I think, for the most part. Let's be fair. The Selena movie is a great movie. I loved it. That is actually was my entree into being a really big Selena fan. Although I was aware of her before in her music. We listened to her music in my household since I was little. As far as knowing Selena the person, really the movie was the first time that I got to see her, and so. Like many of you that were exposed to Selena through the movie, I didn't have any right or wrong context as far as Jennifer Lopez playing Selena. In my eyes, Jennifer Lopez did a fantastic job. I mean, she was Selena. However, it really wasn't until later on that I started taking a look at Selena, the person, her life. And there's huge differences in the way that Jennifer Lopez played her in the movie and the way Selena actually was in real life. Nuances that I think are really picked up in this series a lot better. So while you're asking yourself which one was better, was it the Selena movie or was it the Selena series? I think the question that should also be asked is which one is more authentic to the source material? Remember, the Selena series is not a remake of the movie. The Selena series takes the same source content as the Selena movie, which is the life of Selena and her family and band. So, as far as that's concerned, I think the Selena series does a superb job in really capturing more of the essence of who Selena was without putting layers of Hollywood on top of it. I've read several books, seen interviews by all the family and band members and friends and et cetera, et cetera. And what we see in the Selena series really represents a lot of what we heard from interviews. Everything from the way that the songs were written to the way that Selena would learn the songs, the way that she started in the fashion industry, the way that they worked towards the English album. All of that is represented in pretty good detail, which were really glossed over in the movie. And then as far as the characterization of Selena, I want to play for you this clip because I think it's pretty telling as to how different Jennifer Lopez and the real Selena were as far as characterization off stage. So take a look at the way that Selena accepted her Grammy.
I'd like to thank the company Capital Mailat and Jose Bahar for making tonight possible and having faith in us, putting faith in us 4 years ago. I also like to thank my band, Los Dinos, my father, Abraham, my brother, who's a producer of my music, and also my sister. Thank you for all the support. And I also like to thank all the My Latin family. Thank you for having faith in me. I love you. Thank you.
And now take a look at the way Jennifer Lopez represented that exact same moment in the movie.
First of all, I would like to thank my family, my dad, who's my manager. Dad, I love you. My mom, I don't know what I'd do without you. AB, who's my brother and produces all my music. Suzette, thank you for always being there. To my husband, Chris, I love you, baby. And I'd especially like to thank the fans, because without you, we'd be nothing. Thank you.
They weren't quite, mirrors that we tend to think that Jennifer Lopez was for Selena. And again, if we didn't have a reference of mind as to who Selena really was, then when we saw the movie and we saw that they looked so much alike, then to us, Jennifer Lopez really was Selena. Particularly if we hadn't seen any of those interviews before, we really didn't know how she spoke or the way that she was. But one of the things that the series gets really well is that Selena herself in her interviews, particularly when she's younger, she's very guarded. She's very careful with her words. She's smiley and friendly, but she's not a bubbly personality. She is very shy. And you hear that time and time again on people who knew her growing up, as they said she was quite a shy girl. I think this series really gets more of that, of the quieter, shyer Selena that people say that they met as she was on her way up. There's one big glaring fault in the Selena movie that the Selena series fixes. It's that we see young Selena playing in Arlington. People are booing at her, and her dad says, "We're going to make it somewhere." It's like, you really think that? Yes. And then they have a little montage, and then bam, the next thing they do is they made it. She has a big audience. She's a great performer. Maybe they haven't made it rich yet, but she's already had that capabilities to be able to draw in an audience literally from one night to another. What this series is able to show us is that it wasn't such a meteoric rise, and there weren't so many people that were believing in her along the way. This really was a family affair. And so the series really does focuses on the family as much as it focuses on Selena. Some of the people reviewing the series really don't like that. They think that the more attention should have been played to Selena. However, if you knew Selena's life and the way she spoke about her family, it makes complete sense why they would pay so much attention to the way that her dad and her brother shaped her career. This really de-emphasizes Selena as the upfront woman, but really emphasizes Selena as part of a unit that worked very closely to create an image and a sound and a career that Selena and the rest of her family benefited from. That is accurate to Selena's tale. Even in the Grammy, we hear how she thanks her father, she thanks her brother, and she thanks her sister, the three people in her band. She also thanks her label. She does not thank her husband, and she does not thank her mother. Now, obviously, she was nervous and she might have thanked them, but that's very revisionist history that the movie puts in, having her be so emotional and saying, "Hi, baby," when in reality, Selena was very poised. She was quite demure and shy when she was speaking, and it really wasn't until she was off camera in those kind of situations that she really opened up and was bubbly. Where Jennifer Lopez really succeeds in the movie is in the concert scenes. In the concert scenes, Jennifer Lopez is a trained dancer, as being able to take choreography. She really shines. In the 1997 movie and the series from Netflix have two different objectives. You have to think about it. In 1997, not a lot of people knew Selena outside of her fan base. Again, I had heard her music. My family played her music, but I didn't really know anything about her as a person until the movie came out. So the movie really had to introduce Selena to a wider audience. And I think they really focus on the things that made her look the most glamorous, the most pop, the most sort of wide-reaching, serving populations. And they didn't really get into the awkward teenage years, into the frizzy hair, into the dyeing and cutting and dyeing and cutting that Selena went through early in those teenage years. And I think that's because it just wasn't as glamorous. They were really trying to glamorize Selena and her story as much as possible, because this was the introduction of America to really seeing Selena the person. Now, Selena the series now has to pick up the pieces, I think, and live within a space of the movie being created, Selena being so well known, and still giving something new and different to fans that is not just a replication of the movie, and that it's not just the same old things that we have heard before. And I think it accomplishes that. Personally, I think if you're a hardcore Selena fan, you're going to enjoy very much seeing how the songs came together. You're going to enjoy seeing how Selena had to learn those lyrics, how she worked with Pete to do the choreography. These are all small, rare glimpses that we never got to see in the movie. They were just magically good. What we saw was that Selena was just a good performer, and that was it. That wasn't always the case. Selena had to work very, very hard at it, just like AB had to work very, very hard at creating the music. Suzette had to work very, very hard at the drums. And we actually see a much more realistic tale of Chris and Selena's love story, which I actually really love. Speaking of Chris, I love the version of Chris in the Netflix series. Having interviewed him, having talked to him, having seen tons of interviews with him, that seems more like the person that he is than the person that they portrayed in the movie. In the movie, they have almost this airhead surfer, hot sauce eating man that just sort of barges into the party, that is Selena y los Dinos. But in reality, Chris is kind of a quiet person, kind of a shy person who just has this exterior edge. But if you see interviews with him, if you've ever gotten an opportunity to talk to him, you can see what a sweet, kind, witty, smart person he is. Not this sort of rocker, throw bottles all around kind of a image that they tried to portray in the Selena movie. And in the 97 movie, I just absolutely hated the first few scenes for Chris where he's like, sure, whatever. I like it if you like it. And it's just sort of like these very surfer, empty-headed types of interchanges that really don't jive with the Chris that you see in real life. In the Selena series, you see a much more boyish, charms Chris, who is kind of quiet but still has that edge and intensity that I think is more realistic to a person. And I think that creates for a much more believable turmoil in the relationship for Selena and Chris, that both of them were really quite shy and afraid and were very much terrified of their father. I also really love that in this series, the character of Suzette, Quintanilla, Selena's sister, is more than just a funny sidekick. You start to see some scenes where Suzette really takes on more mothering responsibilities than Selena's mom. Selena's mom is a warm, wonderful character. In the movie, you see Suzette in the Grammy scene going like, hey girl, like, these very sort of like comic-y, shot for comedic effect types of scenes, when in reality, Suzette was a lot of Selena's confidant. And then finally for Christian Serratos, the performance that she gives, I think, is a much different performance than Jennifer Lopez gave. You have to keep this in mind. Jennifer Lopez did not know who Selena was. She hadn't grown up listening to her. She hadn't listened to her music. She came to know Selena from a part that she was auditioning for. And then later on, after getting the part, she learned to Selena from her family and videos and all of these things. That's a lot to take in a few months. Christian Serratos had been a Selena fan for much longer and had observed interviews and performances and things like that from when she was growing up, and including the Selena movie. When I see a lot of the talking scenes in the Selena movie, I just see Jennifer Lopez. I didn't at the time, but now seeing Jennifer Lopez and sort of her shtick, Made in Manhattan, all of those kind of things, like I see that. In that Grammy scene, it's like that's pure Jennifer Lopez. Like I don't see Selena at all. In the award scenes that we have seen from the Selena the series, we see a lot closer representation to the bubbly attitude that Selena had, but still reserved and shy and awkward through a lot of her life. And so that to me feels more realistic of who Selena was. And now for the character of Marcella, it's really interesting. Some of the reviewers are saying she doesn't have much to do. She's just kind of there, hanging by the doorway. A lot of people are saying, well, I really like the Constance Marie version of Marcella because she was spicy and she was, upfront and, would stand up to Abraham in these kind of ways. I met Mrs. Quintanilla. Several of Selena fans have met Mrs. Quintanilla. That's not who Mrs. Quintanilla is. That's not Marcella. Marcella is a lot more like the representation that they're giving in this Netflix series. The year 2000, on March 30th, I went to the Selena Museum and I had brought a gift basket for Mrs. Quintanilla. And I was sitting there during lunchtime while the museum was closed, waiting for it to open. And in walk in Abraham and Marcella Quintanilla. Abraham went to one desk, Marcella went to another. Abraham got on the phone, he was talking to some people, and he, on the phone, started to very quickly get agitated. Something was happening, some sort of business thing, and he was getting agitated and he was, getting loud. It was like watching the Selena movie, like right there in front of my eyes. And I'm holding this gift basket and I look at Mrs. Quintanilla and she's just kind of looking down and I remember her just kind of playing with the desk. She wasn't really looking at anything. She wasn't looking through anything. She was just kind of waiting. And she seemed very patient. It looked like something that she was used to doing. And so I'm holding the gift basket. I walk over slowly to her and I say, here, this is for you. I was visiting from Hawaii and I told her there was a gift basket from different things from Hawaii and her face just lit up. And I'll always remember this because it made such a mark on me. She said, sit down. In that time, Mr. Quintanilla started getting louder and louder. He was, talking very gruffly to a person on the other side of the phone. And she was just kind of ignoring him. And I couldn't concentrate on what she was saying because there was going this on. She picked that up and she said, you got to excuse my husband. This is a very difficult day for us. 5 years ago is when we lost my daughter. And I remember hearing that from her and just realizing what the loss of Selena was for them in comparison to somebody like you or me. She didn't mention Selena was killed, or as you know, she didn't assume, even though I was there to see the museum, obviously I was a Selena fan. But the way she talked about her, she didn't talk about her in any other way other than as her daughter. She never even called her by her name. She just said, yeah, there's a lot of things that have happened since my daughter passed away, and it makes it very difficult for us. And she continued to talk about it. And she told me the story of the last time that she spent with Selena. She looked at her watch and she said, oh, this is around the time that I would have been at lunch with her 5 years ago. And she told me how Mrs. Quintanilla had broken her leg. Selena called her and said, Mama, let's go out for lunch. And I remember she used the word mama. And that Selena's mom said, oh, no, mija, I have a boot on my leg and, or a cast on my leg and I have to be in crutches and all these things. And I don't want to be outside. And Selena said, come on, just a quick lunch, Mom. And she said that the lunch lasted 3 hours and that when Selena was dropping her mom off, Selena said, I love you, Mama. And that Selena said, I love you too, mija. She said, and that was the last time I saw my daughter. And so this series and everything that the Quintanillas do, in blaming them for having this saccharine, view of their family, most of us would have that view of our family, particularly when there's somebody that we cared about so much that was taken away from us in that way. It's difficult. And I'll always remember Mrs. Quintanilla talking to me about that and seeing the pain in her eyes and just realizing the loss that they felt that I will never feel for Selena, no matter how much I love her, no matter how much you love her, that only her family and her husband will ever feel. So I'm still waiting for Chris's version of the story. I love seeing what I think is their vision and their version of the story. I think that the Hollywood version, the 1997 movie, was very much Hollywood. It was Selena Goes to Hollywood. This feels a lot more grounded in reality as far as the struggles that they faced and how slow Selena's ascent to the spotlight was. So I do have several criticisms. It's not like it's a perfect series. The first 2 to 3 episodes to me feel very slow and feel just too kid-like. It's very Jane the Virgin or Ugly Betty, kind of sitcom-y. And there's a lot of elements that sort of give to that. But as the story progresses, so does the quality of the series. And by the end episode, you really get the sense that you watch Selena go from being a teenager to being a full-grown woman, having full-grown adult problems. There's a lot to dislike as far as the production cost too. It doesn't feel as a luxurious production as something like The Queen, The Crown. And it really should have been. Netflix should have gone all out on making sure that this looked and as fantastic as it possibly could, and that it had the budget that any other major huge release would have had. It doesn't look like they did, but I feel that the actors really try to give it their all. You really see some quality performances out of this, particularly in the later episodes when they are now full adults. So as a Selena fan for a long time, as a hardcore fan, I really enjoyed the series. I'm happy that I saw it. I'm happy that I waited for it. Could it have been better? 100%. Anything. I think that the movie could have been much, much better. I think that Selena's life, Selena's talent, Selena's performance is much better than what Jennifer Lopez gave us. And it's much better than what Christian Serratos gave us. That's why they're making movies about her, because she was one in a million. And while I think Christian and J-Lo did a fantastic job, I'm going to give the edge to J-Lo as far as the concert scenes, because I think she was really charismatic. But I really never enjoyed J-Lo in the talking scenes, because I never really transcended seeing J-Lo. You know, now that I see her, it's J-Lo. It's J-Lo being J-Lo, and I don't really see much Selena. Christian does a really good job on the talking scenes. She really does a good job in making us believe that we're watching a young girl grow up in the middle of all of this. And there are some moments that you just can see Selena in all of this, and that's really beautiful. She really is likable and lovable as this part of Selena. I'm not as in love with the concert scenes as I was with the Jennifer Lopez movie, but I don't think that they need to accomplish that in this series anymore. I don't think that the concert scenes are the big draw anymore. I can just watch Selena on YouTube whenever I want to, which I couldn't in 1997. So if all I want are performances, then I can just go watch the real thing on YouTube. What I really wanted to get to was what happened before and after she stepped on the stage. How did those songs come about? How did she learn to sing them? Which, how did they live on that bus? And we get to see all of that. So I, for one, I am happy that the series chose to focus more on the life around the concerts rather than the concerts themselves. I'm glad that the 1997 movie has so many concerts, because that's what really made me start appreciating the love for Selena the performer. But Selena the performer is still much better than either the movie or the series, 100%. The movie, I loved it because it started my love for it. The series, I love it because it increases my understanding of who Selena was as a person, the world that she lived in, and the family unit that she was a part of. So that's it. That's my review. Take care. Aloha. And till next time.